My name is Josh Harcus, and I'm with Huify. It's been an awesome privilege to be able to partner with the Journal on this event. I remember 3 years ago when I was in the same room, I believe it was this room. Someone told me that the new convention center was built a year ago, so I may be a little off on that. It was either of the convention centers. But I remember when I saw Hubspot's Ellie Merman come and introduce the topic on inbound marketing. Looking back, it's been so cool to see how Huify has grown from that and from how our clients have been impacted so significantly from the inbound methodology. So I'm excited for you. There's going to be a lot of things that Rick is going to talk about today that is going to have direct impact on what you're doing here in your businesses in Wilmington. A lot of times we can look inside Wilmington to increase business, and we forget sometimes to look out. There's so many opportunities outside, and we need to be focusing on drawing more business here instead of just focusing on trying to curate more business from within. Some of the main things I remember from that talk was a hand went up in the audience, and they said, "Ellie, this is great. I get it. I get why you blog. I get how you get customers. This makes a lot of sense. Who's going to do all this?" And they said, "You're going to do all this." And they go, "No, we're not. Like, I can barely keep up with internal communication, let alone do a inbound marketing blogging strategy." And that's where the idea for Huify began. We've come alongside and partnered with companies to say, let's keep you doing what you do best. Let's keep the marketing managers maximizing what they're doing, making them look awesome, while we help utilize Hubspot, utilize awesome softwares to accomplish amazing goals by delighting the customers. I'm excited because Rick is an awesome speaker. He is very knowledgeable with inbound marketing. His bio is very significant. I would be worried to go up against Rick in any kind of job interview. Rick started with Google. He worked with Google for a while. Then he went on to work with the New York Times. After a few other ventures, Rick came on the early stages of HubSpot. HubSpot had 40 employees at the time, and they were doing $1 million in annual revenue. Now, fast forward a few years, HubSpot has 700 employees and is doing $100 million annually in revenue. And they have impacted 12,000 customers globally. Rick was telling us just the other night about how he is working on doing all these different global arrangements with different companies around the world, and how just all that fits together, and HubSpot is able to leverage their platform to do that in each specific country. Germany has different rules and regulations than the US does. It's so cool to learn how connected while it's becoming. So, I know you're excited, and I don't want to stay on the way any longer. But let's give Rick a large Wilmington welcome.
Thank you so much. When Josh a couple months ago said, "Well, we'd love to have you come down and talk to the Wilmington business community," I said, "Okay, that would be great. I'd love to come down and talk about inbound marketing." And the piece of that I missed, and that I didn't quite understand until I arrived here yesterday and then showed up here this morning, is that community part. It is like, you guys have an amazing turnout here. You have an amazing business community. Just talking to people before the event. In a bigger city like Boston, it's just everybody goes their own direction. And there isn't that kind of community that is a real platform for businesses and can support businesses that are springing up. So I just think it's really, really exciting, and nurture that community, keep going with it. It's exciting. So I'm going to talk about marketing, the future of marketing today. And I want to start off with a couple of questions. I want to see a bunch of hands out there, see some answers to these questions. The first is, how many of you guys have made a purchasing decision recently that was influenced by television? So you're sitting watching a game, then you see a car commercial come out, and you say, "That's the one." Okay, so a couple hands in the back over there. How about radio? Driving down the road, hear the radio commercial come on, that's what I'm going to buy. Okay, there are a couple hands. How about cold calling? So you're at home with your family, you're eating dinner, and somebody calls up. Now, I have an insurance program for you. Anybody done that? Doesn't have to be insurance. Anything else? Okay, nobody on that one. Okay, let's shift gears here for a minute. How about how many of you guys have made a purchasing decision recently that was influenced by Google, where you started the search with Google? Okay. So you guys look around and you see all those hands. That's what we're dealing with here. That's the change that we're all going through. On one hand, you have the buyers. You have people like you when you're buying stuff who are using Google. On the other hand, you have all of our businesses, which even HubSpot, we're all still hanging on to a lot of these older marketing channels that, as you can see from this room, we're not really using anymore. And so that transition, getting from the old stuff to the new stuff, is complicated. It's hard. It makes you want to pull your hair out because there is so much to do. And what I want to do today is give you guys a playbook that'll get you from those old marketing tactics to the new marketing tactics. Does that sound good? Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to start off with a little bit on what is marketing. So what are we talking about? What's the playing field here? Then I want to explain how inbound marketing can be that playbook to new marketing. I want to dive in and talk exactly about how it works, and then give you some specific tactics that you can work with. I want you all to be able to walk out of here with specific things that you can go back to your office, go back to your home, and do today. So that's the plan. You'll also find that once we get into the presentation, particularly in the tactics piece of it at the end, there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of stuff. I'm going to go quickly through some of it so that we can get to questions at the end. But all of these slides are online. They're on SlideShare right now. I'm going to tweet them out via my Twitter handle, Rick Burns, at Rick Burns. And so you can get all of these slides. Don't worry if you miss something. The other thing to remember is that if you're using Twitter, you're using Instagram, use this hashtag InboundILM. Sound good? Okay. So what is marketing? What are we talking about here? There are a couple things, if you think on the highest level, that I think of when we think of marketing. The first is this. This is what we've all grown up with marketing, and we think of it as brand marketing in the function it serves, whether it achieves that, that's a separate conversation we can have afterwards, does it build trust? You're doing marketing to build trust for your business so that when that person gets into the aisle, when they're choosing between the two stores on the road, they trust your brand. So this is one piece of traditional marketing. Then the other piece is actually getting customers for the business, just getting names, getting email addresses, getting a list or a line out the front of your door. And that's what we think of as attracting customers, and that's demand gen. And so, there's a lot of different things you can talk about when you're talking about marketing, but as a highest level, these are the two big categories that I think of. Now, what are the tactics that we think of when we think of these things? Traditionally, this is what we're dealing with. There's TV advertising, spammy email, the kind of email where people go out and buy lists and then just plaster the list with irrelevant messages. Direct mail, the kind of stuff that is on your doorstep before you bring it to the trash. Then there is cold calling, kind of the guy who's calling while you're eating dinner with your family. The problem with all these channels is that they're broken. And we see this again and again and again and again in the data. So you look at TV advertising. Surveys show that 86% of people skip TV ads. And we all see this. We all do this. We use Netflix. We use Hulu. We use our DVR. We just go right through the ads or switch the channel. So you're starting with hands tied behind your back if you're using TV advertising. With email, and I'm talking about spammy email. I'm not talking about stuff that people have opted into, stuff that people are subscribed to, because that actually works really well. Spammy email, stuff that doesn't have context, 91% of the time, people will unsubscribe from that kind of stuff. Direct mail, 44% of people never open it. And then, if you look at the national do not call list, 2/3 of our country is on that do not call list. So if you're doing cold calling, you're starting with only 1/3 of the population. So you're starting with a serious handicap on that one. So the reason that this is all changed is that customers have control. Customers control the DVR. They have caller ID. They can filter out those messages that they don't want to hear from. And they have the phone so that they can just switch the channel, switch the app. They control their attention today, whereas 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago they did. And so as a marketer, it's getting harder and harder to get your message through. Now I know there are probably some of you guys out there who are saying, okay, I still do direct mail and I actually spend less on my direct mail than I earn, so I have a positive ROI on that direct mail. Or I do radio advertisements and it's still working for me, I think, and I measure that and it seems to be working. Well, I'm not saying that these channels don't work at all and that there isn't a positive ROI on some of these channels. But I'm saying that they're getting harder and harder to make work, and over time, they're not going to be profitable because of this. And so as a marketer, your job is getting harder and harder. It's harder and harder to reach those customers, and it makes you kind of feel like this. How do you deal with all of this? Because the alternative, there's just a ton of stuff out there, and it's very hard to know how to organize it, where to focus it, where to put your energy without wasting your time. Inbound marketing is that playbook. Inbound marketing is the playbook that's going to help you stop pulling your hair out, stop yelling at the computer when you're not getting the customers that you want to be generating. At the very root of it, inbound marketing is marketing that people love. If you think about traditional marketing, it's stuff that's really annoying. People try to phase it out, and that's why people don't pay attention to it. Inbound marketing is marketing that's helpful. It's marketing that pulls people in. So when we compare it to traditional marketing, traditional marketing is where you're using a megaphone and you're doing stuff like the cold calling, the print advertising, the spammy email, and the dominant dynamic there is interruption. You're interrupting somebody at dinner, you're interrupting them while they're getting work done. You're standing between your prospect and what they actually want. Now you compare that to inbound marketing. Inbound marketing, you're not using the megaphone, you're using a magnet. You're creating things that your prospect actually wants, that actually solves your prospect's problems, that helps them make their business better. And so the kind of things that you're doing there, that is SEO, you're blogging, you're using social media, and the dominant dynamic there is attraction. So it's all about pulling people in instead of yelling at them from across the street. So you might ask, okay, well, how do you do this? What do you do? Well, what you want to be doing is building assets. Building content assets that function as that magnet. So these are all things that could be a magnet. Blog is really the starting point for all of this. It's the core piece of content that you can create on your website to pull people in. Interactive tools, you can create ROI calculators or assessment tools for your industry. A lot of people do explainer infographics. All of these things will help your prospects understand the problems they're solving better. And it doesn't have to just be about understanding or answering questions. There's also that element of building trust that we talked about a little bit before. And the video that we just saw is a great example of that. It's an example of a business and a community building trust. Now, a couple of reasons why inbound is a good solution. One is that it builds good karma, and I would also say trust for your business. And as I said, that video is a great example of that. And a perfect way, you might not be able to see that from the back row down there, but you look at the comments on that video. You go to the web and look at where the video has been posted online, and there's a whole stream of comments. And what that shows is just the extent to which people have engaged in this video. It's a measure of the trust and just the goodwill that this video has generated. Now, you obviously can't pay for your groceries with Karma or Goodwill. And so that's not the only reason to do inbound marketing. The other thing is that it's actually cheaper. It's going to save you money. Every year we do a survey of hundreds of marketers around the globe, and we ask them, how much do you pay for inbound leads, and how much do you pay for outbound leads? And you can see on this chart the outbound leads are the blue ones, the orange ones are the inbound leads. And year after year after year, we're seeing that inbound leads, the ones that come from social media, the ones that come from search, those are half the cost or less than the outbound leads, those traditional outbound leads. So some of you guys may be out there sort of scratching your heads, okay, how is the inbound lead cheaper if there's all this work to be done, creating the content, monitoring the social media? That's a lot of work. And how do you factor that in and compare it to the cost of actually purchasing leads, right, from an advertiser or something like that? Well, the way to think about it is that content in inbound marketing functions like an annuity for you, those of you guys who are financially minded. So an annuity is something that pays you cash year after year after year. And I want to walk through a little example, and I'll walk through this carefully so that you guys who may not be able to see it understand it. But I want to walk through an example of how this inbound marketing annuity works. So what I have up here is an example from month one, and as a marketer, I'm doing two different things. I'm paying for some blog posts, and I'm paying for some ads, paid ads from Google. And you can see that I've invested a total of $1,200, and in month one, I get 6,000 views out of that $1,200 investment. So that's good. Both, the inbound blogging channel and the paid channel get me equal returns for month one investment. So you may ask, okay, so why not continue with the paid? It's just easier. Well, where you really begin to see the return is in month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on out. Because what you see is that if you look at the paid column, it's exactly the same. You send your check to Mountain View, California, so that Google will run your ads in month 1. You send your check in month 2, you send your check in month 3, and you're paying again and again and again. Every month you start from scratch with advertising because it goes out the door and you have to pay again. Look what happens over here in the left column. On the blog, you're getting 6,000 views in month 1. You're getting 8,400 views in month 2. You're getting over 10,000 views in month 3. And that's because what you're seeing is that you still own all of those posts you created in month 1, month 2, and month 3. And it's the aggregate of all of those posts that is driving traffic. It's not just a one month thing. And what that means is that over time, as you build up more and more posts on your blog, you're building a really valuable asset. And if you're a company that's been doing this for a while, like Hubspot, we could run, because we've been building our blog for about 8 years at this point, we could just run on autopilot. The whole marketing team could go home for a month, and we'd still generate 20,000 leads a month because of what you're seeing here. All these old posts generate traffic. And that's where you get the scale. That's where you get the leverage. That's where the impact of inbound marketing comes from. Okay, let's take a step back here. If you look back, I've taken a dive into some specific tactics here. But what this is a really broad process that we think of as inbound marketing. And this diagram explains that process. At the beginning, as a marketer, as a business owner, you have a bunch of strangers. There's a whole universe of people, whether your market is Wilmington, whether it's the country, whether you're a global business. Those are all your strangers. And what you need to think about as a marketer or business owner is how do you convert those strangers to visitors to your website, convert those visitors that you're on your website to leads. And when I say a lead, what I'm thinking of is somebody whose email address you have and with whom you can begin a sales process. And then once you begin that sales process, you want to convert them to a customer. And then the thing that's really important today is to convert that customer to a raving fanatic about your business. Because that raving fanatic is going to refer a whole lot more customers. So let's look at 2 inbound marketing examples so that we can get specific and understand exactly what we're talking about here. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical. And I'm going to start with a hypothetical example. And this is a guy, Nathan, who runs a business, suppose he runs a business in Wilmington. And he's interested in customer retention. So he wants to figure out how to retain customers and making them into advocates. And so what does he do? He goes to Google, because that's what apparently everybody here does. He goes to Google, and he types in customer retention. So what's he find? He finds this article that Josh's company, Huify, wrote, and it's all about acquisition versus retention. And he reads it, he goes through it, and he says, you know, this is actually pretty useful. This is helpful. This helps me understand this customer retention problem that I'm solving. And so in the process of doing that, two things that happen, if you remember back where the very first slide I showed is the trust and the customer acquisition. And Josh, Huify, has done that right here because they've pulled somebody into their funnel and they've built some trust with this article because it's a good article that helps them understand customer retention a little bit better. So Nathan, now that he trusts this and this article has been a little bit helpful, he actually clicks on this little download my free analytics handbook button here because he wants more information. He's not satisfied, he needs more. He wants more help with his inbound marketing and his customer retention. So he clicks on the handbook, and when he clicks on it, he gets this download page. And normally Nathan doesn't fill out these kinds of forms because he doesn't want to get email. But because Huify has built up trust, and because Huify did something that was actually useful, actually smart and helpful, he's like, you know what, this ebook is probably going to be helpful. I'm going to make an exception and give this company my email address. So he fills out the form, and he reads the ebook, and a couple days later he comes back because he's still trying to solve this problem. He comes back, he reads some of the other ebooks that they have on their website, he goes out and seeks them out. He reads a case study that they have on their website. He reads a little bit more about the company so that he can understand who these people are and what they do. And he builds up some trust. Now, I want to shift gears a little because what I was looking at there was this buying process from Nathan's perspective. And what I want to look at now is that buying process from Huify's perspective. Because meet all in the background when Nathan visits the website for the first time, when he fills out this form, Huify is collecting the information in their system. And they're collecting the information about what he's looking at, what he's downloading, where he's spending his time. And they're using that information with his permission to make his experience better, to personalize experience, to personalize his website, or to personalize the Huify website for Nathan, to personalize the emails that Nathan is getting, and to do social media monitoring of Nathan, because now Nathan's an engaged prospect. We want to make sure, Huify wants to make sure they know what he's talking about on social media. And most importantly, they're pulling all of this information into the sales process, because they want to create a sales process that has the context of everything that Nathan has done before. They don't want to just call up out of the cold. So what happens? The next week, Nathan is back on the website, and Josh gets an email because the system sends him an alert when Nathan's back on the website. And Josh calls him up. And normally Nathan doesn't accept calls like this, and he'll hang up if it's a cold call. But this isn't a cold call, it's a warm call, because Josh knows a lot about what Nathan is up to. And Josh said, instead of saying, hey, do you want to buy marketing services, he says, oh, I saw that you downloaded this ebook on customer retention. I saw that you had some other questions. Can I help you out? And so it's an offer for advice. It's an offer to help with questions. And that's what we call an inbound sale. It's a sale that includes the context, a sale that's helpful. And that conversation leads to business for Huify. So that's how the process works. Inbound sales and marketing works. I want to just give you one other example from that I've noticed in the Wilmington area is Live Oak Bank, which just launched this Live Oak University, which I discovered when poking around on the website the other day. And I think this is a fantastic example of exactly what we're talking about. It's an example of a company creating helpful resources for its prospects and its customers, giving them away for free, but in doing that, building up trust and attracting more prospects in at the top of their sales and marketing funnel. So this is the kind of stuff that you have to do as a business to get this new marketing, inbound marketing, working for you. So if you step back and you think about what we're talking about, you think about these examples in the context of that cycle that I explained a little bit earlier, you can see how the dominant dynamic there is pulling people through the sales and marketing process, not pushing them through, not yelling at them to move through. It's dominated by attraction, and it's a magnet, not a sledgehammer or a megaphone. So how do you actually get started with this? Where do you start as a business? The very first place that you need to start is by figuring out who you're trying to sell to. Who are those people? We call them your buyer persona. Who is your buyer persona? This company is a Boston-based company, and they got so excited about it that they decided to make cardboard cutouts of their buyer persona. That's what you see there. That's not required. It is helpful, so you have a visual, but it's not required. The important thing is to go out and spend time, invest time in asking your prospects questions, in investing in interviews, documenting this across your organization. And I'd say that I have a bunch of things that I think you need to do to build out your buyer persona. But the most important is to formalize it. And formalize it and share it across the organization, because if you formalize it, then you're taking it seriously. And this is how we do it at HubSpot internally. Our buyer persona you see in the image there is called Marketing Mary, and that's a page from our internal wiki where we have ongoing conversations about what are Mary's problems. What kind of questions is she asking? Where is she getting her information? We want to know all of that information so that we can write blog articles, create ebooks that answer those questions. And that's how we create a magnet for Mary. If you don't know who that buyer persona is, you're never going to be able to attract your prospects. You're never going to be able to build up a strong sales and marketing funnel. So if you got that down, that's sort of table stakes, figuring out your buyer persona. Once you get that, you really need to go back to this process, to the sales and marketing funnel, and think about where your problem is, or maybe it's where your leverage is. And you need to look at what your numbers are on each stage of this process. So what I've put up here is another hypothetical. And this is a situation where a business is getting 1,000 visitors to their website. They're converting 20% of those, so they have 200 leads, and 10% of those are converting to customers, so they're getting 20 customers each month. Now, if I'm looking at this, I think that turning 20% of your visitors into leads is pretty good. That's a good conversion. And then 10% close rate. I mean, that's a pretty strong sales team. I think those guys are doing a good job. So if I'm looking at this as a marketer or a business leader, I'm going to say the leverage here is attracting more visitors in the top of the funnel. You can turn that, you can double that 1,000, you should be able to triple that 1,000. You can get a lot more visitors in the top of your funnel, and then your numbers all the way down are going to go up as well. It turns out that's actually where most businesses have their problem. It's not the closing deals. It's not converting website visitors to leads. You can figure out how to do that. It's just attracting people to your website is the real problem. And that's what I want to start off with, talking a little bit about some tactics for attracting more people to your website, filling up the top of your inbound marketing and sales cycle. Okay. So the number one thing you can do to drive more traffic is to create more content. What you're looking at here is a slide, as a shot from a competitor's app we have within HubSpot, and I pulled some data there. And what you can see, if you look at the indexed pages column, you compare it to the traffic rank, and higher is better in traffic rank. Number one is the most traffic website in the world. The more indexed pages you have, the more pages you have ranking in Google, the more traffic you get. So that means that you want to create more pages. You want to create more pages so that you can create more traffic. The way you should think about this is like lottery tickets. If you have if you have 2 pages on your website, you have 2 lottery tickets, 2 chances for your friends to share pages from your website, 2 chances to rank in Google. But if you create more pages for your site, you get yourself a lot more lottery tickets. You're going to have a lot more chances to rank. And so one of the most important ways to just think about generating traffic is thinking about creating more content, because it just improves your odds. Now, how do you do that? The most effective way to do it is to blog. Because a blog is essentially a vehicle for creating new content. It's a simple, effective way of creating new content on new topics, targeted. You can target it for your buyer persona. And these are examples of posts from our Hubspot blog. Now, there are probably a lot of you guys out there who are saying this right now. And I would say simply that you're wrong. There's no 2 ways about it. Because we have seen just industry after industry after industry say that and then see results like this. So these guys make fireplaces, stone hearths. So what are you going to write about in stone hearths? These guys created a blog and had 189% increase in traffic. Okay. How about fuel additives? 700% increase in search traffic when they started their blog. Financial services. This is a company in Dublin that advises other companies on complex financial matters. 13x increase in traffic when they started their blog. So it's across the board. We were talking last night about just manufacturing. You wouldn't think there's a lot to blog about in certain manufacturing industries. We have hundreds and hundreds of manufacturing customers who blog about all sorts of different, very specific questions that their buyers are interested in. So there are probably a lot of you guys who are also wondering about this. I mean, maybe it does make sense for me to write a blog, but what do I write about? The simple answer to that question is you write about what your customers are talking about. You answer the questions that your prospects have. So you look at those businesses that I just showed, and they all have very specific articles that they keep churning out. So how to plan an outdoor fireplace, diesel truck performance, legal remedies for oppressed shareholders, these kinds of things. I don't have any interest in these. But if you're somebody who is interested in legal remedies for oppressed shareholders, and that's a useful topic for you, that's going to be a very, very high quality lead for this business peace trust. And so if you think about what your prospects are asking, you'll be able to come up with great blog posts. It's a great way to start. A lot of things that you should think about when you're starting up your blog. I think the most important is to commit to a schedule of 2 or 3 posts a week. Maybe a little less than that, but basically the more lottery tickets you create, the better off you're going to be. And I think volume is obviously really, really important, but these have to be quality posts too. The posts have to build trust. Okay, social media. So there has been a lot of hot air spilled about social media. There has been plenty said about it, and you guys can go find more than enough presentations, videos, blog articles about how to do social media. I think that for the purposes of generating traffic on a business website, the most important way to sum all of that up is listen and share. At the end of the day, those are the 2 most important things on social media. And I'll give you a really good example of that. Just a single interaction with one of our customers last summer. This is, and I'll read it off in case you can't see it up here, but this is a woman named Roxana. So out there said, "My oven died, finally, and I'm debating between a GE and an Electrolux induction range. Anyone have any experience with either brand?" And so our customer, Yale Appliance, said, "Hi there, believe it or not, we actually wrote a blog article." So you see the interaction between blogs and social media. Happy to answer any questions, and Yale shares the blog article. So Roxana replies, "I'm concerned about Electrolux's reputation for reliability. They're known for looks but bad reliability. How's the range?" Well, The Yale CEO jumps in because he's monitoring this conversation too. And he said they had huge ice maker issues on refrigerators, 100% fail, but that was 4 years ago. Everything else is good. And so Roxana jumps back in and says, Yale CEO, my Yale, thank you. I totally appreciate your candor and the induction guide, which I just sent to my husband. Now think about where we started with the goals of marketing. Is to build trust and to pull people into your funnel. And in this one interaction, Yale has done both of those things. It's built trust by being candid, sharing a valuable piece of content, and then it's actually created a lead for the business. Because this person, when they get to buying that new range, Yale is going to be one of the first places that they look. So this is the kind of thing you need to shoot for on social media. Now, a lot of different things you can think about. I think the most important and the place to start, if you're just starting out with your business, is monitoring the keywords that your customers are searching for and talking about. Pick a few specific keywords, and this goes back to understanding your buyer persona, because you need to understand the keywords that your buyer persona is searching for, the keywords that your buyer persona gravitates towards, and start monitoring those keywords, because monitoring those keywords will get you into the conversation, so that you can work your magic, building trust, and pulling those people into your funnel. Okay, so a couple last notes on how to get traffic into the top of your website. There are a couple things that you need to do just structurally, technically, on your website to help generate more traffic. One is search engine optimization. Two is social optimization. So that means actually setting up your blog with the right triggers and setting up the rest of your website with the right triggers to build social reach and make it easier for your visitors to share your content. The last thing that's becoming even more important today is mobile, because everybody uses mobile devices. At Hubspot, I'd say between 40 and 50% of our main website's traffic is on mobile devices. So, if we're not mobilely optimized, that's just 40, 50% of our traffic, 40, 50% of our business just lopped right off if our website isn't mobile optimized. There's a lot of back-end sort of technical stuff that you need to do on each of those fronts. A very simple way to know how you're doing it, not necessarily solve the problems, but actually understand whether you have problems, is to use this free tool that we support called marketing.greater.com, Marketing Greater. And this will tell you how well you're optimized for search, for social, for mobile. See whether you have things to fix or not. Okay. So we talked a little bit about how you can attract people to the beginning of this process, how you can turn strangers into visitors. That's the most important thing. That's where most businesses really fail. The next thing, once you solve that problem, say you get from that 1,000 to 10,000, and then your quality goes down, and so that conversion rate that was awesome is now down to 1%, and you're not generating any leads. There's nobody for your sales team to call. There's no new business to start working on. So how do you turn those website visitors, all those people that you brought to your website, into leads? There's a couple specific things that you can do. And what most of them revolve around are offers. And that's what you see up here. This is a blog article. And at the bottom of the blog article is an offer for more information. So you pull people in with the blog article. That's what you do to attract the visitors. And then at the end of the blog article, you say, hey, you like that, you want more. Well, click on this, and you give them an offer. It may be an ebook, it may be a free trial. One of the things you need to do is experiment with a lot of different offers. And I have a couple examples up here. This is a software company, Atlassian, that offers a lot of different free trials of their software. At HubSpot, we do all sorts of different things. We're experimenting with images, with templates, with free trials too. What you need to figure out is what are the kinds of, what's a free piece of value you can offer your prospects to engage in the sales process a little bit further. what you want to do once you have identified an offer you want to create is put it behind a landing page like this. This is what we call a landing page, because somebody lands on this page and they're going to fill out this form in order to get that offer that you've created. In this example, the offer is an ebook called Reinventing Your Event Marketing for Higher ROI. So you fill out this form, and and once the person fills out this form, they are a lead. A key is creating a lot of these, because it's like lottery tickets again. The more offers you experiment with, the more offers that you have on the website, the more opportunities there are for visitors to turn into leads. And we see this, we have 12,000 customers now, and we see this with them all of the time. The more landing pages they create, the more offers they create, the more leads they generate. So if you want to generate leads, you've got to generate that traffic and then create offers to turn the traffic into leads. Okay, so that's a brief summary of how you get your visitors to leads. Focus on offers. Now, what do you do once you begin that sales process? You have somebody's email. How do you engage them, turn them into a customer, and turn them into a lifelong customer? This is how I think about it. You need to sell. You need to do inbound sales like Amazon sells. And what I mean by that is that it's driven by context. So we saw that in the example with Huify. So when I go to Amazon, my Amazon's on the right over there. I'm interested in biographies. I'm interested in science and technology. My wife, she is, and this is why I'm very, very lucky. She is an amazing cook. She reads a lot of cookbooks. She reads fiction. I don't read any fiction. She's a psychiatrist, and so sometimes she reads the DSM. This is what she sees on Amazon. That's what I see. And Amazon gets a lot more money out of us because they personalize the selling experience. It used to be that only Amazon could do this. Only these massive technology companies. Today, those tools have been democratized. Any business can do this. And so what you need to do is personalize the emails that you're selling, that you're sending to your prospects. Use all of that information that you've gathered from those landing pages we talked about, that you've gathered from all of the page views that your prospects have taken across your website, to personalize their experience on the email. Use it to personalize the website, so that when they come to your website, they see something that's more tailored for their interests, their needs, their problems, and that is more likely to engage them in a sales process. Use it to improve your social media monitoring. So don't just monitor the whole world. Monitor the people who are interested in specific topics. Monitor the people who have already come to your website, because those are warmer leads. Those are people who are closer to closing. What you're looking at here is just a slide from Hubspot's tool, which allows you to do that. Just monitor social media for specific leads. And it's that kind of context that can improve the sales process. And then the most important piece of all of this is that you need to hand all of this context off to your sales teams and to the people connecting with prospects, so that they're not just doing that cold, so that they're not interrupting, so that they're helping to solve problems. And that's what we saw in the example with Huify. Now I want to wrap up here in a minute, but I think if you summarize all of this, as consumers, this is what we do. As buyers, this is what we do when there's no context. We just tune stuff out. And so as a business, what you really need to do is add that context. Because if you add the context, you solve problems for your prospects, you're going to be doing really, really well. And you're not going to have many problems making this transition from the traditional world to the digital world. So one final thought here. When you think about traditional marketing, it's all about this. Businesses, it's selected for businesses that had a big pile of money. You could take their big pile of money up to Madison Avenue and find an agency to give it to. And it was driven by the size of your wallet. I think what's so exciting about all these changes is that it's not driven by the size of your wallet, it's driven by the size of your brain. And if you can figure out what it is that is special about your business, if you can figure out how to articulate and solve the problems that your prospects are running into, you're going to do really, really well. And you just have to figure out how to understand your prospects, solve their problems, and put that on the web. And that doesn't require a ton of money. It just requires some work on your part and some listening to your customers. So that's one of the things that really, really excites me about this. That's why I've been working for Hubspot for 6 years, and I think it's a huge, huge positive change in the world. The one problem with this, the one challenge with all of this, and we talked about this earlier, is that it's a lot of work. It's hard. I breezed through a whole bunch of things, landing pages and calls to action, and blogging and social media, and there are a lot of different pieces to inbound marketing. It's hard as an individual and as a business owner or even a marketing leader to pull all of this stuff together because you have a number to hit every month. You have a number to hit every quarter. And that's the problem that we aim to solve at HubSpot. We've built a software platform that pulls all of these things together. It is organized around this methodology, this approach to marketing that I've just described here. And so the goal of HubSpot and HubSpot software is to do everything I've just described in one place and make it easy for you to continue to run your business the way you've been running it with more success in marketing. I'm going to wrap up now and hopefully get to the best part of this session, which will be the questions. A couple notes on that. I should have automatically posted my slides on Twitter during the course of this presentation, so if you want to go back to any of that stuff, all the notes and all the slides are on Twitter and SlideShare. Those free tools that I mentioned, marketing.greater.com, there's another one, Get Signals, there, you see the URLs there. And then Huify is also can help you out with a free assessment. So a free inbound marketing assessment that goes through all of this stuff. Now, I think we're going to do questions, and if you guys can text your questions to the number on the program, and I think, do we have any questions to begin with?
Yep. Start off with Corey, table 46. You get a microphone.
Hi. I'm not sure if mine's as much of a question as kind of a statement. I understand where you're coming from.
Just end your statement with a question, okay?
Well, I understand where you're coming from. I just don't know. I feel like you're skipping kind of an integral part of the process, and that is the branding, because I know everyone says that when they want to find something or buy something, they Google it, but how do you know what you want to buy unless you have that traditional media? And it works subliminally. So you have to have that one part of the process before you can branch off, I feel, into the blogging and online world.
So I don't disagree with you. And we run brand advertising at HubSpot. In fact, I've run a lot of it myself. I think it's really a question, and that's, at the very beginning, one of the things I said is that this stuff is, we do a lot of brand marketing at HubSpot, because you're absolutely right. I think it's really a question of what share of your budget and how much do you focus on. I also think that creating a lot of this content is a way of doing brand marketing. So there is nothing that has spread or built the HubSpot's brand better than our blog. Our blog embodies and spreads the HubSpot brand. So I think that you're absolutely right. Brand marketing is very, very important. I think that there is still a very big place for traditional marketing. I think it is getting much smaller, and I think that as a marketer, you need to do both brand marketing and demand gen marketing. Other questions?
MK, table 39.
Okay, this is kind of a two-part question. But at what point do you believe that social media monitoring and big data collection becomes an invasion of your site visitors' personal privacy? And do you believe that the feeling that Big Brother is watching will ultimately breed feelings of mistrust and paranoia, always being one step ahead of the person?
So I think it's a really, really important question because there is definitely a point where that happens. And it's been a big topic of conversation recently. I think that is why, I guess the place you need to start with as a marketer is that your goal is to build trust. And so if you're violating trust in the ways you just described, you failed as a marketer. So observing your visitors and your prospects' wishes on the privacy front is very, very, very important, critical as a marketer. I think that as a company over the last 8 years, HubSpot has built a lot of tools to enable companies, enable marketers to be more responsive on the privacy front. This has become even more of a priority as our European business has grown. So Josh was mentioning one of the things I'm responsible for now is building our international websites. And so on international websites, in Germany in particular, what you're required to do is alert your visitors when you're putting a cookie on their website. So alert them when you're tracking them, instead of just when you sign up for an email having a little terms and use ticker. Now, that's something, so all of our customers in Germany are required to use this alert that I just described. But any customers anywhere can actually use it. So if you want to alert your customers that you're putting a cookie on their site, then you can do that. Now in the United States, I don't think we sort of assume that people don't want to, or that businesses are tracking us when they're visiting our website. And that's an assumption we've made, and that's the way it works here. In Europe, that's not the assumption. I think the bottom line is that as a business, it is in your interest. It is in your interest to respect and be forthright about the privacy of your businesses and or your visitors. And we as a company that helps customers build their websites, we feel very strongly about that, and we want to give our customers as much control over their users' privacy as possible.
Cheryl, table 25.
Hi. This all sounds wonderful for .coms and people who have a product to sell, whether it's information or an actual physical product. For those of us who are only concerned with the local market, with people, our business requires face-to-face meeting, investment services, high-end investment services, insurance, commercial insurance, where you actually have to make site visits, that type of thing. How can you incorporate that in, with just a local, just really looking for a local, maybe 3-county market?
So I think that at the core, it's very, very similar because what you're trying to do is if you're trying to attract customers to your website, is make your website into the hub of activity for your buyer persona, people you're trying to attract. And so you need to start from there. You need to ask them you need to ask yourself, what kind of content, what kind of community can I create on my website to attract your customers? I think that a blog, I think will have just as much impact as it would if you were focused on a national audience. I think that social media may be a even stronger channel because the universe is more limited than if you were on focusing on a national market. So you can actually go out there and follow the specific people that you're trying to reach and interact with them. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is create that magnet. And so that magnet is valuable resources that help answer the questions. And it's engagement, and you can do the engagement via social media.
Good. Seth, table 30.
Good morning.
Morning.
In a small business where we only have a handful of employees, we wear many hats. With the blogging, how important is it to actually write an article versus just doing tidbits of information here and there? So in other words, a few times a week, can you just put out, some small bits of information and not generate full articles so it's less of a time commitment?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I think is really important with all of this stuff is that you have to get comfortable with experimenting. And I've experimented with that stuff. I think that what I would do is experiment with both of them and see which generates the most inbound links, see which generates the most traffic, and see which people are talking about the most. I actually, one of the things I always talk about is that in a blog, it's kind of like, your blog should be kind of like a meal where you have different types of food. You have a pot roast, which is like takes forever to cook, and it's like a big project. You have your spinach, which is sort of healthy, and you have your Tabasco, which is fiery, and you have your cake, which is sweet. You need to have all of those different pieces of your blog as well. Big long posts, short and sweet posts, the healthy ones that are sort of more thought leadership posts. And I think you need to mix it up. I would try different stuff. But at the end of the day, the proof is really in the pudding, and you need to measure it all, figure out what works for your buyer persona.
Great, thank you.
We've got time for 2 more questions. First is Rocco, table 30.
How you doing?
Good.
So I know a lot of the topic today was on blogging, but I had some questions on social media in general. Like sometimes I know every business is going to be a little bit different as to who their target customer is and what social media channels they use. But have you seen any data on confusion? Like say you go to a website and they have 15 different buttons for different social media channels that they're on, type of thing. Have you seen any data on like maybe a sweet spot? Like I said, I know every business is going to be a little bit different of where their customers go to, but I just didn't know if you saw using more of a rifle than a shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you made a bunch of really good points there. First of all, and I think this is a really important thing to note, different audiences gravitate to different communities. So if you're trying to reach college students, Facebook is an awesome place. If you have a B2B product, you're selling to other businesses, LinkedIn may be the best platform. You need to figure out, part of figuring out your buyer persona is figuring out which social network your people are on. Now, I think that you're absolutely right, that if you plaster your site with social media icons and you have too many options, your sharing will, the net sharing will go down. What we've done, I don't recall off the top of my head any data that has measured the optimal impact of, or the optimal number of social media sharing icons to have on your site or a page, but we typically have about 4 or 5 on our blog articles. I think more than that gets kind of crazy. And one of the things that we try to do as a platform is add all of the new systems to the system so that you have the option of incorporating new social media tools as they appear. Other
Good.
questions?
Last question, Davey, table 38.
Yes, I'm over here to your left. All right, so as far as social media is concerned, how do you stay ahead of the curve of like which next, for example, Facebook is going to be the next big thing? Like how do you stay 5 years out of what's rising and what people are gravitating towards, so you can start building that fan base early on instead of jumping in 10 years later after Facebook's already huge to build up those fans, and then it's like, wow, they already have 10,000 fans and it's only a year old.
Yeah, so this goes back to what I was talking about experimenting. I think a big piece of all of this is diving in, experimenting, and thinking about your experiments quantitatively, and analytically. So I think the key to solving the problem that you just articulated is try stuff out. Now, not everybody has enough time to do all of that. And what you described is just part of the thing that we try to help you solve with HubSpot. Because what I was just saying, the last question is that we spend a lot of time doing this. We're always trying all of these new networks and trying to figure out which are the ones where we need to invest the most resources, and then we incorporate them into HubSpot so that you can start using them as HubSpot users. And so a big piece of the value of the software that we offer is keeping track of all of this stuff that's going on and incorporating it into the tools so that you just are dealing with one set of tools over time. Thank you guys so much. This has been a great, really
Before we let Rick go back to Boston, we wanted to give him something to remember us by. We got him an aerial photo of Riceville Beach so he can remember how happy we are when he's freezing his butt off.
We're not going to get the video going.
So, thank you again, Rick, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you guys so much.